The only way that this kind of top-down insistence that people speak things that aren't true, that only works in a tyranny. So it is always authoritarian. Like, this is a top-down thing, and you can see that with the Pride thing. That flag is flown by multi-billion-dollar corporations, government departments. It's not flown by your average village shop, or it's not flying from people's houses. It's a thing that is imposed from the top and perpetuated from the top. And while you've still got, let's take that proposition, the proposition that people can change sex, which is factually wrong. This is not to say that people can't, as far as I'm concerned, dress as they choose, call themselves what they want. I believe in liberal values. I think if you're not harming me or anyone else, you can do what the hell you like. And that is my guiding principle, always has been. But what you can't do is, you can even believe that you've changed sex. I don't have no problem with people believing that and saying it and doing whatever they want. But once you're imposing that on other people, making them repeat the lie, saying that your rights have to change because of my belief, I can go in your toilet now, I can go in your space, right? That's you encroaching on other people's rights. You don't get to do that. It is reminiscent, and I know it's become a cliche, but it is reminiscent of 1984, the George Orwell novel, insofar as there's that phrase where they say, one of the people says, it's if there's any future, the hope lies with the proles. The hope lies with the proletariat, with the people, with the underground, because no one believes what the party is telling them. Everyone goes along with it. When they're at the 2 minutes hate, screaming at the imagined enemy on the screen, they're doing it in the way that those poor people in North Korea had to pretend to be weeping and crying when their leader died, while behind them there are people with guns ensuring that they put on the performance. So if there is hope, it lies with the people. Because ultimately the party can keep saying 2 + 2 = 5, and you must say 2 + 2 = 5, and people will do it up to a point because they're terrified. But then at some point it changes, and that changes when the people said they've had enough. And in a democracy, in a normal society, the elites, they're powerful, but they're small in number. And democracy is the thing that protects us against tyranny. That's why the fact that we can vote these people out gives us that safety net, and of course in tyrannical regimes, that's why Hitler wanted a one-party state. That's why they vote rig. That's why democracy is the big enemy of tyranny. And I know I'm stating the obvious here, but I think it's comparable. This idea of an elite perpetuating a lie and making us be complicit in the lie is exactly what happens in 1984. So although they're not disappearing people or, making rats chew their faces or whatever happens in the book, they're not doing that. But they are reading from the same authoritarian playbook. And Trudeau's getting close. I mean, the fact that they're locking people up for wrongthink, well, that is directly Orwellian. The fact that they are manipulating language and changing language and telling you have to repeat lies, that is Orwellian. The fact that weren't they going to redistribute the funds of people who had donated to the truckers? I mean, that is authoritarian. There's no getting around that. That is what that is. Just because it's not as bad as what it could be, just because it's not as bad as North Korea or the Third Reich or something, that doesn't mean that we should tolerate it. There's a really interesting bit in Alexander Solzhenitsyn's book, The Gulag Archipelago, where, of course, he ended up in a Soviet labor camp, so he knew the full extent of where authoritarianism can lead. But quite early in the book, he talks about seeing someone being dragged away by the guards and saying, why didn't any of us say something? We had the power then. There were many of us. We could have said, hang on a minute, why are you taking that person away? We could have raised the objection. We could have raised the alarm. You have to do it early, so that things don't because tyrannical regimes don't appear overnight. So you have to sort of say stuff early on. You have to have those red lines, and one of the red lines is, for me, compelled speech. As soon as a government tells you have to say something or it's illegal, that's a red line. And no matter what it is, you have to tell them no, and you have to stand up. But I think that's what's happening at the moment. But I think that's the best way to think about it, is that, like you say, there is hope in the proles, there is hope in the people, there is hope in the fact that most people just don't believe the thing they know they're meant to believe. That's quite comforting, isn't it, in a way?